How I bought a home with no credit. Every bank said no. Oh yeah, you heard that right. You can buy a home with no credit. Even if you have terrible credit and bad credit, you can do it. I'm gonna tell you how. Let's go.
Noel. Yeah, she can fix that. If you gotta get it done, no, you need to do it better. Well, she can fix that. Yeah, she can fix that. Investment to get back, trying to get a big stack. She can fix that. Let's fix that.
I'm going to share with you my real step-by-step process on how to buy a home without using credit. I'm going to share with you the big secret that no one tells you about how to get a deal done. I'm going to share with you a real script that you can use today that still works. There are so many benefits to home ownership, and it is very important in your wealth building plan. I know so many people say that you do not need to buy a home anymore, that is old school. And yes, in many cases, I am not saying that you should buy a home and live in it, because that is not a great investment. But when we are talking about buying a home from Noel's perspective, I am teaching you how to begin your wealth building plan. And it is going to require you owning some real estate, but you do not have to have good credit. I literally started investing in real estate from my parents' basement. I was bankrupt, I had multiple foreclosures, and I had some of the worst credit that you could imagine. I did not have any money, so I was not really a person that you would think could become a real estate investor. But that was not true. I started going to real estate investor meetings, and I met a guy that taught me wholesaling. He taught me how to start finding people that were having property problems, behind on their mortgage payments like I had been, and getting those properties under contract and then flipping those contracts for a fee of like $5,000. I started doing that from my parents' basement, and that's how I got my sorry butt out of my parents' basement into the millionaire that you see today. So this is all possible, even if you have bad credit. But the important thing to know is you are going to need to start buying real estate and owning real estate if you really want to change your financial status. So now let's talk about how we do that, even when the banks say no. So like I said, step one is going to be starting with a property problem. When I was in my parents' basement and I had no money and bad credit, my coach taught me how to start putting out bandit signs. He said put out signs that say, "Behind on your mortgage payments, ? Call us," or signs that said "Facing foreclosure, ? Call this number," and start putting out ads on Facebook and Instagram and Google that asked people if they were behind on their mortgage payments and telling them I could help. It was an amazing game changer. All of a sudden, my phone was ringing and people were calling me to help them. Even though I had bad credit and I really couldn't buy their home, I was tied to a network of cash investors. Again, I'll tell you how to do that because that's super simple. But more than anything, he taught me that if you could help someone that was behind on their mortgage payments, there were tons of investors that would buy those deals. And they would pay me handsomely for them, for connecting those sellers that were behind on those payments to those investors that wanted new fix and flips or rental properties. When I began marrying those two people together, I started making a fortune. So in other words, you can invest in real estate with bad credit and no money, and even help people and make money in the process. But step one, start with property problems. Step two, market to find sellers or property owners. This is the second step, and it's very easy. I started telling you that my coach told me to put out signs and to do letters. That's all you need to do. That is marketing. In other words, you're advertising to find these people, getting them to call you, and then taking those calls and those leads and turning those into profits. It's really easy to do. It's not very expensive, and there's a ton of ways to do it online and offline. Online, you can run Facebook ads, Google ads, pay-per-click. There's all these types of inexpensive ads that you can run. Offline, in the world, you can put out signs, you can mail letters, you can put door hangers on people's doors and start getting leads. It doesn't cost very much money, but then when these people start calling you, you can buy those homes. You don't even need to deal with a bank, and you can avoid banks altogether by dealing directly with the people that own the properties. So before I get to the next step, make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, make sure you click that little notification bell so you do not miss any of this content that I am bringing to you almost every single day, absolutely free. Make sure you do it. The next step, convert. This is so easy, but this is the part that people have an issue with. They don't know how to get all of those leads and turn them into a deal. Now again, you can buy a home from any of these sellers and deal with them directly and convert them where you can live in the property, either where they're financing you or if you lease the property from them and then you purchase it later. That's called a lease purchase or a lease with a purchase option. There's different ways to get this done, and it doesn't require much money, and it definitely does not require you dealing with a bank. Even if you do something that we call subject to, you still do not use a bank. Subject to is where you buy a home subject to the existing financing, that mortgage, staying in the seller's name. This was a complete game changer for me, and it's absolutely legal and ethical. It's how I built my portfolio to over 40 properties and was able to quit a 6-figure job. This is how I started getting properties when every bank was telling me no, even before I was able to get my credit back. I started wholesaling the deals to get some money for myself, and then some of the leads that I wanted to keep for myself, I got my own property this way. I was able to talk with the sellers directly and deal with them and negotiate with them. There's so many different things that you could do to either make money off those leads or to get a house for yourself. Either way is okay with me, but I'm going to tell you, you want to start making those into rental properties so you can really change your wealth. So last step is again to solve. So one of the things that my student did that I need to tell you about is using subject to get their own property. Like I said, you don't even have to deal with banks. So if banks are telling you no, or if you have bad credit, or you don't have a job that has pay stubs and W-2s, so it's really hard for you to get financing, you can use subject to as a way to get properties. You can buy them subject to, and I just had a student do it. I had a student take all of the things that I just told you, and they ran some Facebook ads asking again, is your mortgage currently in forbearance? Because of the pandemic, a lot of people put their mortgages in forbearance, and eventually that forbearance is going to end, because what forbearance means is they just suspend the payments for a certain amount of time. They do not stop, they don't report it on your credit report, but at the end of the forbearance, all of those payments are due. So unfortunately, it's going to create a situation where there's going to be a ton of modifications and foreclosures coming in our economy. And you want to be on the other side of it. You don't want to be someone that's losing your home to foreclosure. You want to be the person that's grabbing up these foreclosures and making money. Noelle was on the other side of this in 2009, but in 2021 and 2022, I used these same disasters as advantages and opportunities for my business. You can do the exact same thing. One of my students just bought their own property using subject to, marketing, putting out a Facebook ad that asked if people were in forbearance and saying that they could help, using all of those leads and talking to people, and they took over that person's mortgage and moved into that home. So this is something that anyone could do. You just have to start marketing and follow the steps that I've shared with you. So I have created an entire course that I want to share with you that teaches you all of this absolutely free. Please go to noellsfreetraining.com. noellsfreetraining.com. It's an entire course that I created just for you. I teach you my exact formula to investing in real estate without using your credit and without losing money. It's an amazing training that was a little bit too long for me to put up here, but it's the perfect training that you can use, and it is absolutely free. noellsfreetraining.com, because I want to make sure that you have all of the resources, all of the tools, and all of the knowledge that you need to be successful. This is Noelle. To your success.